Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And this is the obvious lead-in or lead-off is the Texas, another mass shooting. I think this could be, correct me if I'm wrong, the most fatalities in a school shooting environment. Am I not correct?
I believe so.
I think it is.
I haven't seen the latest figures, and unfortunately, they keep rising. So it does look like this is going to be the largest number of casualties in a school shooting.
And it seems to be after Columbine. This used to be, I'm old enough to remember the old slogan, whatever. Oh, they're going postal because it used to be in post office, or I think there was a fast food shooting. I forgot the name of the chain. Now it seems to be happening in greater regularity, which is really friggin' scary. It's if you're a nutcase and you want to go out in a blaze of glory, you do a school shooting. Am I not correct?
It is happening more often. It's absolutely horrific. And I know you remember we were on terrestrial radio the day that the Sandy Hook shooting took place. And there are a lot of similarities to this. And people are going, oh, well, it's an elementary school. It's just like Sandy Hook. But there's more to it. And people aren't digging enough deep. They tend to go to their knee-jerk reaction. But I think we really need to take a good look at what is going on in the American family and in the school system. Because first of all, Sandy Hook started, the shooter shot his mother and then went to the school to shoot up the school. Here, the shooter shot his grandmother and then went to the school to shoot up the school. So the two questions that pop into my mind, and unfortunately, I don't have an answer for either one of these questions. One, isn't this really about their domestic situations? Because obviously there was something going on in the family that triggered this.
Oh, let me interject something about that, because I think you're 100% correct. And no one knows anything about this particular situation except of what you just outlined. But at Sandy Hook, it was almost like, what were these parents doing? I think they bought the idiot a gun. He was clearly mentally ill.
No. Sandy Hook, they did not buy the kid a gun. The gun was the property of the parent. It was the mother's gun. And the kid took the gun out of the gun safe. Ironically, the mother in the Sandy Hook situation had told people she was afraid of her son. And that was actually one of the reasons she bought the gun. But she did nothing about it. She got him no help.
Well, there you go. Isn't that negligence?
Yes, I would
stupidity
think so.
And negligence. And by the way, why don't you lock up your gun a little better? So I do think it is a situation where maybe more troubled youth are slipping through the system. I believe that is an absolute factor. And I also believe, I'm sorry, but, why can't our governmental officials, everything's so partisan. On one side, you have the Democrats who want to abolish the Second Amendment, and then you have the gun lobby, which they don't want to hear about anything. I don't own a gun. I'm a believer in the Second Amendment for various reasons. But why can't we have meaningful and logical legislation? A nutcase should not, someone with a record, from a hospitalizations or certain criminal records shouldn't be allowed to have a gun. I'm sorry.
No, there should be a way to do this. The problem is that federal authorities, and I heard this yesterday during the discussion about what had gone on, federal authorities that investigate can be held liable if they get it wrong, so they don't want to do that. Families tend not to want to air their dirty laundry, so they don't want to bring in somebody that says, yes, there's a problem here. But as I said before you, I had two questions. Again, that I don't have answers for. The first one was about the domestic situations, but the second one is these are happening at schools for a reason. And I think we need to find out what that reason is. Is it simply that it's a soft target and they know they can get away with it? Or is it the fact that the school system is actually traumatizing these students and nobody wants to call them out because, oh, they're victims.
No,
It's
I
mental
disagree with that.
health.
I think it's about if you shoot up a school because it's going to make some loser world famous and it's the way to go out. I don't think they're going back and because they were traumatized or they didn't have a lesson plan. I think these people are
Well,
very
no,
twisted and it's the
it's
way to
not
go
about
out.
it's not
20
about
years ago, 30 years ago, it was shooting up a post office. Now it's shooting up it's the psycho de jour.
well, no, see again, I have
Hmm.
to call you out on this one because we know for a fact from Sandy Hook, the Sandy Hook shooter went to that school because his mother worked there. His mother was considered favorable by this school, and he wanted to take it out on the school for not taking his side in this and for perpetuating what
Okay, but if,
he
if that's
thought
if
was
that's
his
the
Monday.
bar, then there is no, people who've got fired from work. I mean, school is a natural target because people spend their whole youth in that situation. They could blame a school for a shitty childhood. So I don't,
And but
go ahead.
that's another aspect of it. If we know the school is that easy a target, shouldn't we be increasing security in every school? The town in Texas that this happened in, they had four armed security officers that patrolled all of the schools. Not one per school. It was four, and they went from school to school. Shouldn't we have armed security officers at our schools? We know their targets. Shouldn't we
Well,
be doing more to protect them?
given the obviously recent events over the last 20 years now, I obviously that's something that definitely should be looked at, and also what should be looked at, more than believe, is the whole scenario of why can't we get together with logical gun legislation? But as we were speaking,
Well, that
talk about
that
the.
that actually goes even beyond
Mhm.
gun legislation. We've reached a point where Biden has announced he's not speaking to the Republicans, and the Republicans responded, "You haven't worked with us yet. Why would this be any
Yeah,
different?"
and he read it from a
And
teleprompter. Trust me,
yes,
like he
and
came up with an
this
original
is
thought.
this has been going on for years and years, and it's the fault of both parties. But I grew up in New York City, and I remember Senator Pat Moynihan and Senator Al D'Amato. Al D'Amato was a Republican, Pat Moynihan was a Democrat, and these guys worked together. And we need more of that. We need to bring that back.
Well, you'll like this one, or maybe you won't. Beto O'Rourke, easy for me to say, a real lightweight, just someone who's delusional about his ability, of getting made a political circus out of Governor Abbott's press conference. He basically crashed it. What? How despicable! No, I mean, I have to say this: the kids died. Okay, this whole community is in mourning, and shithead has to make a political stunt out of it. That's reprehensible.
It
What a
is
piece of shit.
it is absolutely reprehensible. I have no doubt that the voters in Texas will hold him accountable for that by not electing him. But this is the problem. Something like this happens, and both sides go to their corners and they spout the same things over and over again, whether it's gun control on the right or
Eh,
protecting the Second Amendment on the.
but that's almost
And
giving
I
him
did,
a free pass
and
because that's
I
beyond the
did that,
pale. No,
and I
that's
need
that's
to.
that's
Well,
different than partisan politics. That's using this event, using this tragedy for his own, because he's so stupid. He thinks it's going to get him, higher in the polls, which is not going to happen. But that is, at this point, to anyone with any kind of class, you remove your partisan or your political agendas at least for a minute or two. You don't go making a stunt like this. I think it will completely backfire on them.
It will backfire on him. And I think we have to go back to 2008 to give an example of what the proper behavior in this case was. And I'm blanking on what the tragedy was. Something had happened, and John McCain suspended his presidential campaign for a few days.
I forgot what it was. I do remember
Yes,
that he
I don't
did that, and I forgot what the tragedy was. But
I
I forgot what it was.
yeah, I don't recall what the tragedy was, but this is what politicians need to do. They need to step back from the politics of a situation and deal with compassion, deal with intelligence. I mean, you've got all these left wingers yelling about, well, it's absolutely about gun control. Well, no, it's not, because Chicago has the strongest gun control laws in the country, and this is not a safe city to be in. So we need to actually look at the problem at all angles,
I
and
agree with
nobody wants to do that.
no, because it's just like abortion. It's one of these areas of contention that the both parties are rewarded for intransigity on the issue. But I still, before we exit or leave and go on to the next topic, I do have to reiterate: Beto O'Rourke is a scumbag. He has an ego, and his skill set versus his view of himself are completely out of whack. He will go down in flames, and hopefully, this will be the last of him.
Hopefully this will end him. It was a horrific thing to do. Taking advantage of a tragedy like this should never happen. And again, I hope that voters of Texas will punish him by just turning out in droves against him.
Hopefully that will be the case. Now, moving on. And I consider this a much lighter subject, obviously, but 70% of those of the Republicans polled are in favor of impeaching Biden. And one of the areas that they believe that he should be impeached on is treason, or the charge should be treason, uh, given his conduct at the southern border. Your thoughts, Dr. Lopkin?
Yeah, I'm not sure if treason is the correct charge or not. We have seen, though, Biden over and over again make decisions, in some cases actually sign executive orders, despite being told by both Congress and the courts, you do not have the ability to do this. And he's been shot down in the courts time and time again. So there probably is a case for impeachment. Should the Republicans impeach him? No, they really shouldn't. Because, first of all, impeachment needs to go back to its roots. Impeachment is a legal trial. It's not, oh, we hate this guy, let's get him out. And worse, in this case, you impeach Biden, you end up with Kamala Harris as president, and she is completely incompetent, but stupidity and incompetence are not crimes that you can be impeached for.
And
So
again, oh, sorry, go ahead.
so I think we'd be in just as bad shape if they
Probably
went through
worse.
with it.
Probably worse. I think, again, I'm a no fan of, or not a proponent of Biden's intellect, but I think one of the only, actually the only halfway intelligent thing, and I'm sure he didn't do it on purpose, is appointing Kamala as his vice president. In the corporate terms, it's called having a poison pill. Like, in other words,
Yep.
you push away takeovers because you have this division or sector that people don't really want to digest. And I think she is the impeachment antivirus. How do you like that one? Antibiotic.
Well,
And speaking of her, I have to bring this up. It's hysterical. So obviously, the natural thing that if they had any belief in her or confidence would be, especially with the Roe versus Wade potential situation, to get her out in the forefront and speak about that. No, this is really, you can't make this up. This is something like out of Saturday Night Live. Do you know what she's doing? She's a proponent for electric bus school buses, and she was
Yes.